All right. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a Fireside Chat with HPN Global. My name is Harold Batiste, and I'm here today with my two partners in crime that I'm just thrilled to be back with. I've got the lovely Jil Dasher, who's our Senior Vice President and Managing Director of our fabulous Meeting Services Division. And I've got Desi Whitney, who's our Senior Vice President of Sourcing and Industry Relations with me today. Good afternoon, ladies. Hey, do we really have a fire for the Fireside Chat today?
It's a fireside chat. We got to have the fire, at least to start, right? Let's set the tone. We're just here chilling by the fire.
Even though it's 80 degrees outside, we are chilling by the fire.
Well, we have to give a nod to our producer for making that happen, because I didn't know we were going to have like a real fire. So how cool is that?
Great job, Brian.
So thrilled to be with everyone here today. Thank you for joining us here. And I really want to sincerely thank our clients, as well as our hotel supplier and destination partners, for joining us today. Your partnership and support during these wavering times has really been nothing short of remarkable. You'll recall that last year in 2020, we did several of these webcasts, and we primarily addressed the ongoing effects of what COVID-19 has really done to our beloved industry of meetings and events, and really travel in general. We had special guests join us. I mean, ladies, we had folks from CVBs. We had, I think we had a few hotel leaders. We even had some clients that join us, right, Desi?
Yeah, we sure did. And you guys took the lion's share of those last year and did an amazing job. And, I remember having conversations with so many of those folks that were grateful for, the honest conversations and kind of keeping everybody up to date as to what, everyone is experiencing. And, so I'm multitasking, guys. I've got my phone in front of me and I'm seeing who's tuning in. And I just want to say hi to a couple of folks real quick, if you don't mind. We've got Luis Ellis, who's our Hilton GSO. Of course, the fabulous Hillary King and Laura Hess from our sourcing team have joined in. And Susie, I know, Susie, you have been such an amazing supporter. Even during a time of furlough, of course, there she is. Yeah. Hi, Susie. So we are grateful that everyone is tuning in, and we're super excited just to chat and, obviously provide value for anybody joining in on the call, whether you're a hotel, a client, or, just one of our friends.
Yeah, we got Loretta from Omnion. Hey, Loretta, who's our Omni GSO. We've got Paula Sabetzi, our Canadian Merit GSO. So, man, with the whole cruise coming in, we also have a ton of clients that I think are also on as well. So again, I love doing these because we have such a diverse audience, right, Des and Jill?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to shout out, we have a lot of our HPN family on today too. So great information to share with everyone. And I think it's important that we say we do this internally, but we're bringing it to you today, and we ask you to join in the conversation, whether it's a question or perhaps a comment, or maybe just a story about what you've experienced. So we are inviting you today to join in with us and participate in the talk. So pull up your chair.
Yeah, yes, please. So guys, 6 months is a long time. I mean, so much has happened in the past 6 months, and, dare I say, we have hope.
We do. Absolutely. A lot of hope.
Absolutely. And as we were talking in the green room, ladies, we want this to be interactive. When we did these, when Jill and I primarily, I think Desi, you were with us for one as well, but when Jill and I did these, it was typically where we had guests and we were giving like pointed questions, and we had an official itinerary of things that we wanted to have questions and opinions on. Today's a different. We've been having these talks that we're going to talk today for the last 6 months. And I think it was Jill, you mentioned that you were like, hey, Harold, I've had clients just ask us, right, of what we're hearing and what we're seeing, right, Jill?
Oh, I mean, I think every conversation that we have with a client starts with, well, what is everybody else doing?
Right.
What is everybody else concerned about? How are they approaching these things? And I think it's fair to say there's just this vast amount of information coming at us at all times, and it's ever changing. So depending on what industry you're in, maybe where you're based, where your meeting and destination will be. So there's so many factors that play in, and you're trying to decipher this huge amount of information, right, and understand, what is everyone else doing? What works and what doesn't work? So I think, every conversation starts with that, and the common theme is the same.
Right.
How do I, ensure the safety of my staff, my team, my attendees? Number one. And number two, how do I address liability and perception? So those are things we talk about every day. I'm excited to share that beyond HPN Partners Conference, which we held in early December, we've already hosted 2 in-person incentive trips that our team has been able to really plan at the lead of Kirsten Perry on our team, and then going on site and experiencing what it means in this new world to host an event.
Yeah. So we'll kick off here, and Desi, we'll have you kind of kick us off here. But a lot of people, obviously, as I look here, have found the chat box here.
Oh, yeah.
And so many people I want to say hi to, but we'll be here all day. But we do typically save time at the end for question and answers. But today, just throw them out there. We're going to try to monitor them as we're talking, because again, this is just a fireside chat here.
Mm-hmm.
We're just talking internally about what we're seeing, but we want you guys to be able to chime in and kind of join in the fold.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And we typically, like Harold mentioned before, are a little more structured, and we're just here hanging out with you. And so we've got the opportunity to be flexible and, answer your questions in real time, which is pretty cool. And I just want to comment a little bit about, kind of like the bandwidth of this chat and different perspectives, which I think is super healthy and important. So for anybody that doesn't know, Jil Dasher oversees our meeting services team. So HPN Global has a full service meeting services division, and I won't even pretend to know that I know exactly what they all do, but Jil's on the phone all day, every day, talking with clients. And so she has such a unique and amazing perspective and a pulse on what people are asking. So, as she had mentioned, people want to know what's everybody doing, and information sharing is so key and critical right now. And then we've got, Harold, who is on the front lines with our associates out there, let's say fighting the good fight and talking to clients as well and supporting them through that. And, of course, I'm overseeing sourcing, so I'm seeing all of the trends and what's new and what's different and what's shaking. So it's kind of a cool, fun opportunity for us to be having this chat together. And so, Harold, you mentioned HPN 20, and Jill, you mentioned HPN 20. And I will say that we, when we decided to move forward, we didn't take that decision lightly, but it was super imperative for us to show everybody that it could be done. And to, obviously, hopefully shed some hope and optimism into our industry. And we approached our planning with 2 main points. So the first one was responsibly hosting a conference and not spreading COVID, right? Because that's extremely important. And then also knowing that everybody's got a different perspective and comfort level with the whole, conversation. And so planning for the most concerned person to feel comfortable in attending. So those were kind of the 2 main points, that we focused on. And of course, people make their own decisions, right? How they're going to conduct their behavior based on their risk factors and, comfort level and all that good stuff. But
So Desi, so you were actually, we have meeting planners that are in our audience today, but for our HPN 20 conference that we had, which is where we brought in our hotel and destination suppliers along with our associates, you actually had to play the role of meeting planner. And I know we want to get into kind of our real first bullet of content that we at least want to talk about, which is on everybody's mind, is what are the area of concerns and considerations around in-person meetings today, right? And Des, I want to hear yours, but Jill, I want you to kind of kick us off just from your meeting services side. You're talking, it's interesting because you're talking to our clients who have made the decision to already, they made the decision to, hey, we're going to have our meeting, right, Jill? And what we need help with is just how to do it and how to execute it and how to do it safely. So you kind of, it's not a question of if, it's just how, right?
Well,
so what are you hearing?
We're hearing a lot. And I think once that decision is made, because right now I feel like we're talking to a lot of clients who are deciding to move forward in 2021 and 2022 with their trips or their conferences. So where we start with is, you know, that as an organization, what is their risk tolerance? What are they comfortable with? Because I think that's the foundation, right? Because you're going to go to a destination, there are going to be policies and procedures, state and local. The hotel is going to have their own policies, protocols, and then you're going to have your meeting plan, which you communicate how you're going to keep people safe. But it has to come to that place, that starting place of what's that tolerance level. And it's so funny because I look at all the events we've done, the 3 events just in the last 60 days. And I think what is really common is we put in these great plans. We address tolerance. We, you know, talk about liability. We put plans in place, as Desi said, to address the, you know, the keeping everybody feeling comfortable. And then there's that factor that we need to let every client know, which is human behavior will come into play. And how do you address that as an organization? So a lot of the conversations we're having are along those lines and really looking at, you know, what are all those layers you need to look at and talk about before you ever step foot on site.
Yeah. So, Jill, as I'm looking at the questions here, Greg Lambert.
Hi, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
I love Greg.
See your name here. He asked a specific question here of the incentive trips you held, and let's tell our audience where were those trips and at least what month they were held and how big they were. But to his questions is, you know, with the changes to luxury experiences, right? Were you able to change and add things to make the trip as normal as possible? Right.
That is a great question. When you think the first one we did was in Mexico in January, about 400 attendees. The second one was in February in Costa Rica. But great question, Greg, because I think, you know, it isn't the same experience. The first trip we did was early January. And I think that's probably one of the first bigger incentives to come back. Right. And what was interesting was due to that risk tolerance, it was more like an individualized incentive where you would go, you'd have credits, you could, you know, eat and participate in activities. However, there weren't large organized group activities and receptions and meals to keep everyone safe. So it became, let's say, more of an individual incentive vacation experience. However, by February in Costa Rica,
No, you're there. We can hear you. Keep going. Keep going. They'll bring you back.
I am not able to hear her. We'll give her a second to process.
It looks like she dropped off, guys. So
all
we
right,
just
so
have
she
to
dropped
continue
off,
until
so we'll bring her back. So no worries. So
no worries.
Let's keep pivoting here. We'll come back to that question. So what's great about today is that we're going to jump around and we're going to hit all kinds of things. So Desi, talk to us a little bit about sourcing. 6 months has passed since we had a chance to really address, I think, the world here.
Yes.
And talk to us a little bit about new business. What are the leads looking like right now for new RFPs? Of course, we're handling our fair share of postponements, some cancellations, but we're working on more new business now than we are. I think we are in those kind of lift and shifts.
Yeah, it's exciting and it's kind of a fun little treat, I would say, you know, when you get to run the numbers and you see the goodness and the business that is happening. And, you know, February last year looks a hell of a lot different than it does this year, right? So our lead volume for this month has doubled over last year, which is exciting. And then another really exciting piece of information I want to share is that our bookings for January, we're just shy of 70% of last January. So we are, you know, coming back and we're moving forward in a really big way. And then I had an opportunity to chime into a Paxis that we did with our partners from Access DMC. And I looked at our bookings for the last 6 months. 24% booked into Q1 and then 25% into Q2 of this year. So we've got a steady stream of business and things are looking pretty good.
Yeah. So again, so for the audience here, I don't want us to paint this picture that we're out of the woods.
Right.
It's back to pre-COVID. But we cannot ignore the fact that 70%, 72% of our bookings in January 21 compared to January 20, that's got to tell us something. So, but we are cognizant of the fact that there are planners out there, that are on right now who may have had 1, 2, 3, 4 meetings, maybe even more in the last 6 months. But we also want to recognize the fact that there are planners that are in areas that not only have they not had a meeting in the last year, they may not have even left their home, depending on where they are. So those are the things that we are hearing, and it puts us almost in a consultative position with our clients. And Jill, I'll let you finish your point here in a moment.
Did I leave you hanging?
That you
Did you like that?
No. I'll let you finish
trick
your point,
I have.
But
we're on our toes, though. We can handle it,
What I'm hearing from my side, because I have a bit of a different perspective. Jill, you're talking to clients who have made the decision. When one of our associates gets me involved with a client, it's typically we're at a crossroads of whether we have our meeting or do we not. So, and because their meeting is contracted, how do we, is there an opportunity to get out of our contract? Is there any mitigating efforts? And these are all things that we talk to our clients about. And I tell you, I personally have been spending a lot of time with even clients and groups that we didn't even necessarily book. So I'd be remiss if I didn't at least throw out our help at hpnglobal.com. And don't feel like that because you booked your meeting yourself or that it was booked through maybe a planner that's not in your organization anymore. Use that help at hpnglobal.com address and send us a note and say hi. Because we've spent a lot of hours on phone calls with clients who are just at that crossroads. I've got a meeting coming up in May. My CEO or my meeting, whoever owns the meeting has tasked me with, moving it, right? But I've got a contract and it says if I don't, fulfill this contract, I'm going to be staring down the barrel of, some sort of damages. So, allow us to have that conversation with you. So it's been, the last 6 months, and again, Jill, I promise you I'll be quiet in a moment here, but it's been really interesting because what I tell our associates is that when you have a client that reaches out to you and says, hey, I have a concern about our meeting, we have to immediately begin to assess a few things. The first one is going to be, first of all, where is the meeting and what state? Because any kind of a gathering restrictions or constraints are going to differ depending on where it is. Okay. What does the contract say? Is it a contract that has terms and conditions that are favorable, that allow you to have some flexibility, or are there not? The other piece, and Jill, you mentioned it earlier, is your allowance for risk. What's your risk allowance? Can we wait before you make a decision on whether or not you have this meeting, and where is the request coming from, and then what type of program is it? Is it a corporate program where you're bringing people in as a planner and you're telling them either they come or not come, or is it an association or user program where it's external and you're having a marketing component where I don't know if I can get everybody to show up. So all of these things are what our associates immediately kind of go to when we have a client that tells us we're concerned about whether we can have our meeting or not. So So Jill, I want you to finish your point before we lost you about, just the concerns and considerations that your clients who have said, hey, it's game on, but we just want to know how to do it right.
Well, and we start off and say the same thing every time. What we know today is going to change multiple times through that planning landscape. So what we know today isn't necessarily what's going to happen in October or even in July, let's say, this year, because we know that will continue to change. But we really look at what is that destination? What are you going to be doing on site and how are you going to communicate it? And I think one thing we learned across every event is communication is key. Sharing your policies, sharing how you're keeping people safe, sharing what you're going to do and expect on site is really important because then people know that baseline before they even attend the event of what to expect when they get there. I saw one of the comments was, what happened in Costa Rica? Costa Rica was amazing. Because this group travels together and they work together, they could do more activities than they have previously done in the past. The biggest hurdle we had with that is the CDC changed the testing requirement coming back to the US in that 3 weeks prior to the event. So it was, how do we now do PCR testing and making sure,
there she is. Okay.
and making sure people have, that PCR testing when they return. So those were hurdles we had to overcome in that one, but otherwise a fabulous event.
Let's talk about testing here for a moment. Because, Desi, for our conference that we had at the Omni Mauna Lucia in Scottsdale in December, we introduced, I think, testing, and that was I'd like to say it was cutting edge. It seems like after that, we saw a lot of the, on the hotel supplier side, chains and different hotels introduce that as a concept. But give us just a quick summary on our thoughts behind that. And then I've got some lingering thoughts since then in the last 6 months where we've seen in that area.
So the testing was good. And obviously, that makes everybody feel more comfortable from the start, which is awesome. But I would say, as you move forward, if you make that decision to test, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to, pop COVID sometime during the conference. So you still have to be very careful. Maybe you picked it up at the airport, and it's going to take a few days for symptoms, but it definitely, for us provided some peace of mind and quite frankly, it was neat to watch. We definitely felt cutting edge, and we've gotten so many questions on how did it go, and what did that look like? And I want to touch on Jill's point about attendee communication being so key for absolutely everything. And then I also want to mention that the human behavior side of things, so interesting from this perspective. And from communications, I feel like people consume information totally, differently, and it's not necessarily consistent. And so when you're looking at your communication plan, looking at all of the different ways that you can provide info, whether it's, of course, your emails, text messages, Facebook, or social media, let's say, signage, and even like people, communicating protocols and information, so super important, because how busy are we all the time? Like maybe I missed the email, or I didn't see what I agreed to in the registration, attendee code of conduct, or what have you. But those are definitely really important pieces to consider.
So we rolled that out in December. Here has been what we've seen here, and what I have noticed. When you make the decision to test on site, it's a huge undertaking from a client perspective, from an organization perspective, and then from a hotel perspective. We've seen hotels roll out safety protocols that include on-site testing. I've seen varying versions of those safety protocols, but what I think, if this is going to continue to be a thing, which I hope it's not, right, where we don't have to test on site, the question always comes up, well, it's great when everyone test, their temperature is under that threshold, or if they test and you get that rapid testing and it's negative. But what happens when that temperature is elevated? What happens when that test comes back positive?
Yes.
And the
That
consensus
is the burning question, right?
Yes, and the consensus has been, well, it then becomes a hotel strategy. But I think the communication is, as a planner, you got to ask that question going into the hotel, because the hotel's got to be able to have some sort of a quarantine strategy that's going to take, it's typically going to be in a guest room, and it's typically going to be longer than whatever your contracted block is, right? And then who pays for that? You know, and I've seen varying plans where the hotel has a special, dare we say, quarantine rate, but or is it at the group rate? It's something to kind of help offset those costs. Now, for destinations, for our DMOs and our CVBs that are on here, we've seen I've seen various destinations offer to offset those quarantine costs, which I think is fantastic. But you've got to have a strategy in place. Now, we frankly, do we get lucky in Scottsdale? Because we didn't have any cases. I mean, everyone was tested. They all came back negative. So which is good. But and frankly, I haven't heard of any real meetings, and I'd be remiss to say that, you know, it'd be naive for me to say that no one is coming back home after a meeting or gathering and not having a positive test. But I haven't seen it, you know, rampant, right? So I think the testing on site works. And so, so Jill, you probably have had, you know, again, these conversations on the meeting services side, you've had to have had the question asked, right?
The question is always asked, and the answer is always different. Some clients feel more confident just asking their attendees to test. There is always that question of liability. You know, who's liable if someone comes up positive? And then also really looking at, you know, I think smart planners and smart hoteliers talk about it up front. What is the hotel doing? I see Kim made a note that she said she had a group in Cabo. Hotel offered guests a one-time payment upon check-in of $35 per person, and if they tested positive, their 14-day stay was complimentary. So, you know, good practice in this is just ask up front to the hotel, what is your policy? Should someone test positive, whether on their way here or during, you know, what is that policy and how are we going to communicate that policy to our guests? So thanks for sharing that, Kim. Really, really helpful. But that's always a question is, are they going to require testing? Is it going to be on site or before? And then are they going to, you know, suggest testing after as well?
I said, and I said it to you both, and I said it to myself, that I did not want this webcast to be a bunch of opinions from us personally. I wanted this time today for us to give facts of what we're hearing and of what we're seeing. But when you get into the vaccination space of talking about that, we kind of don't know what we don't know yet. We do know that vaccinations are increasing, especially at that 65 and up age, right? You know, the federal administration is you know, has their thoughts and opinions on what that's going to look like. But when you're making a decision on whether or not to have a meeting in, you know, in a future month, you know, you can't go off of that, right? But you would have to think that as the vaccinations increase, that's only going to put us as a society to be able to move forward and eventually put, you know, COVID behind us. But again, I reiterate, you know, we're not out of the woods yet. You know, Greg Lambert here, he asked another question: is what does contracting look like moving forward? And again, you know, the last 6 months, you know, you said it, Des, a lot's happened. And contracting has been interesting. And the smart hotels have given allowances especially meetings that are going to happen in the year, for the year, or very short booking windows, and even future meetings. They've been having anything that's relative to pandemic being allowed in force majeure and impossibility language. And I don't want this call to go down the road of what I call a rabbit hole of what's force majeure and what's not force majeure. We've beat that horse, and that'll continue to be a conversation, right? But the smart hotels moving forward are going to give a level of comfort to the client to say, hey, we want your meeting in November of 21, but if we are not out of the woods yet, we're going to show you some leniency. Those are the smart hotels. And now that's hotel to client. Now we also, getting back and putting our consultative hat on when we're talking to our clients, we are also telling them that based on where you are having your meeting, listen, the country has basically in two buckets, right? There's the bucket of, hey, we're a state that's been aggressive in staying open and remaining open, or they're in a bucket of, we're in more of an urban setting, and I don't want to call out states and names, but we're in an urban setting, and we're not there yet. Okay, we're going to be more cautious versus being a little bit conservative versus being aggressive. That's what the country has basically split up. It's either one or the other.
Right.
So
that's fair.
Based on where you want to have your meeting, right? And again, getting back to Greg's question, contractually, we in our HPN suppliers to be able to put you, the client, in the best position to have that level of comfort to still be able to have in-person meetings. Because Jill, we said it in the green room, right? Like there's this built up angst of people that want to meet in person. Yeah. And in many cases, our direct client says, hey, if it were up to me, man, I'd sign tomorrow. I'd keep this meeting right where it is today. But there are the overarching factors or a board or other decision makers who are having me at least
and the attendees, right? Like, not to mention we have a client that's coming to Scottsdale in May because their attendee base, they're older. Most of them will be vaccinated. They want to travel. There's that pent up demand. They're doing a limited hybrid. So it's, I hear that side of it, or no, we'd like to really hold. We have clients that want to hold that in-person meeting, but maybe they're in that healthcare industry. And so it's not realistic that those attendees will be able to come in June, July, August. So then maybe it becomes virtual or some sort of a hybrid situation for those who do want to attend. But I hear that all the time. It depends on a lot of different factors.
Hey guys, let's do a little crowdsourcing right now real quick with our audience. And we got a question from Julie, one of our associates, which is awesome. And would love to know if you're a client, a planner, would love to know when your first, or maybe you've already had an in-person meeting, hopefully, right? Would love to know some information on what that landscape looks like for you. And then to Harold's point about so different regionally, would love if you're a hotel or a DMO or a DMC. Stacy had shared that they've operated meetings in January, which is awesome. So, if you could share with us what you're seeing out there for your own particular destination or hotel. And also, let's see, Julie was asking about what kind of attendance are you seeing versus contracted. So if people could chime in on that would be super helpful.
Yeah, what's interesting is, the geography is really plays an important role of where you are.
100%.
And again, I don't want us to come off for our meeting for our clients that are on the call here. I don't want us to come off that, we're trying to convince you to do something that you don't feel comfortable doing. Okay, I want to make that crystal clear. We don't want to put you in a position to where we want to say, hey, you really should have this meeting. If you have concerns, we're here to support you, but we're also here to consult and tell you what you're up against. And and sometimes it's not what you want to hear, right? And that's just the nature of consult. I mean, you want somebody to tell you the truth, right? And you don't want someone to say, yeah, go ahead, have this meeting, and it's not the right thing for you to do. And then from the supplier side, just know that we are we're having these consultative conversations with our clients. And if you're in a state that's been aggressive, I saw San Antonio says, hey, we're open for business and we're hosting safe meetings. They've got the women's Final Four coming up. Indianapolis has the men's Final Four coming up. So there's states out there that have been aggressive in opening, and we're going to tell our clients that, and so they can make a decision, accordingly here.
I always say we act as, an advisor, because each client comes with their unique, set of circumstances. And so we really look at that and help them wade through that. And from there, we can offer, what we think, what you said, Harold, what they're up against, or, things they may want to consider. Why it may be better to be hybrid or virtual this year. No, maybe it's better to be in person. So we really kind of factor all that in and then share our thoughts to help them make an informed and thoughtful decision. I think that's the place we come from.
On one of our chats, I think the term that you said was, we're going to meet you where you are. We're not going to try to convince you as a, any kind of organization or entity on what it is that you should be doing, but meet you where you are, and wherever you are is that's the conversation that we're going to have. And there are a lot of concerns out there right now. So it's valid, and it's, it makes sense that people feel concerned and, might be a little bit cautious. So I love the advisement role that you guys are able to play.
And we say this on every call we're on. If something comes up, if you have a question, you just want us to take a pulse check with our other clients, let me know. I'm always happy to do that. I'm always happy to be a resource to help people get the information they need. And so that's something I always offer. I know you can do it through help@hpnglobal.com. Please feel free to email me if there's something specific to meetings and meetings management that you want understanding around. But that is something we say, we're a resource. We're going to meet you where you are. And then we're going to help you wade through that information to help you land where you need to make that the best decision for your group.
So everyone hears me say smart hotels, and I like to think all of our hotel partners are smart hotels. But one thing I want to just make clear as a point of a trend and things that we're seeing is that there's this word called empathy, and it's powerful. And you've heard people say, presentation is everything. You can say the same thing in two different ways and get two different responses. And we're not in March or April of 2020 where this was fresh, it was new, it was raw. And every hotel was, oh my God, you can't have your meeting. I'm so sorry. Let's work to postpone it. Now we're a year later, and there is a level of exhaustion, I think, from the hotel side. And rightfully so. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But there's a level of exhaustion that now you're on your 50th, your 60th cancellation or postponement, right? But there's a level of exhaustion. Hotel staffs I think they're coming back, but they're not what they were pre-COVID, right? So hotels are a bit stretched. So I really think the smart hotels continue to show that level of empathy when they get a correspondence from a client that says, hey, I can't have my meeting in April or May, and I want to talk about that, or I feel like we can't have the meeting. And not that they want to cancel, they just want to have the conversation. When one of our associates comes to the hotel and says, hey, we have a client that says they have concerns about, an April or May meeting. I think you got to kind of breathe. And I think when you are engaging directly with our clients, it needs to be from still an empathetic place. Which is not easy. I get it. I mean, after a year of this, and I said I wasn't going to give any opinions, right?
No, but I love the empathy.
On the back end of this,
I love that empathy, but I have empathy for our meeting planners
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are working with, smaller or non-existent teams, less bandwidth, and they had to pivot to virtual and figure out platforms and how they were going to connect with their attendees virtually. And now they need to make decisions about, are they going to meet in person? Is it going to be a hybrid? And all that they have to think about. So I think my empathy also goes out to those meeting planners, because every one of them that I've talked to said, yeah, we've been successful, or we've done well in a virtual format, but we cannot wait to get back to meeting in person. There's things that are not, that you just can't replicate in a virtual format. So I have a lot of empathy for the amount of work they're doing with limited bandwidth on their end. And so, that's where I hear it every day.
A live meeting now is now you've got to add the COVID layer and, your protocols and your safety, and how are you keeping people safe, and your communication plan and what you're doing on site. Are you going to test, or are you not going to test? And, all of those things. It's a new kind of complex world, right?
Well, yeah. We talked about hurdles earlier, and there's one that I want to kind of just take a minute and dive into. And you heard me talk about, clients that are at a crossroad. Do they have their meeting, or do they look at what a virtual or a hybrid looks like? I mean, Desi, our conference did have a hybrid component, but I want to start with Desi, and then Jill, I want you to kind of backfill there. But just for our conference, Desi, right? That's a hurdle. What comes with that when you make the decision to go virtual or hybrid? What comes with that?
So, and I think that, it will depend on, the organization and the planner, and if they've already maybe, paved the way for their own virtual meetings in the past and whatnot, but trying to figure out how to engage everybody, especially in this time of serious FOMO for the people that were attending live, to try to make that experience, feel like you were engaged and that you weren't just logging into another Zoom call, because we've all been, Zoomed and virtual, to death, right? And we just kind of want to be with people. So that for us was one of the biggest, challenges, trying to make sure that people felt the engagement. And, it's not necessarily their fault that they can't be there, but how do we make sure that they feel the love just the same as the in-person attendees?
So, right. And from a planning perspective, Jill, like what do you have to take in consideration when you try to go hybrid or virtual?
I think they're two different things. I think what we've learned about hybrid already is it's two experiences. You're planning for two separate events. You're planning for an in-person experience, and then you're planning a virtual experience for the attendee at home. And so how do you marry those, and how do you help? It's almost like navigate that virtual attendee through it, because they almost have to be led. We look at sports as a great example of a hybrid experience. And so how do you facilitate that and bring them along in the journey? And a lot of our clients right now are saying, hey, we know we're going to do hybrid, but we're going to probably do a simplified hybrid, because we just don't, as we talked about earlier, have that bandwidth to build two separate experiences, and it's expensive.
Yes.
There's another added layer of cost. And so we look at, it's going to take more time, more planning, more cost. What's it going to look like? So some clients say, I'm going to do my keynotes and certain things throughout the hybrid experience, but then I'm going to record on site and then offer that as on-demand content, post-conference. So those are a lot of the considerations. Virtual, I think we're pretty good at now. We've been doing it for the last year. It's not a surprise anymore. We know what works, what doesn't work. It's that hybrid component of how much of it is going to be hybrid and shared, and how much of it's just going to be kept to the in-person experience, because they are two completely different experiences.
Yes, it seems like those conversations happen real fast, especially for, to call it 20 and 21. A lot of our clients just said, hey, we're just going to go, we're going to go virtual. We're going to go virtual. And I think that's just such a, there's me again with an opinion. I don't know if that's a sustainable model. And I will honestly say that there are clients that have said, hey, Harold, we have to go virtual. I don't want to, but I have to. Let's now focus on the 22, 23 and beyond when getting back to in-person meetings. But I have heard that it's not a sustainable model to go virtual, because you said it, Des. If for nothing else, it's the FOMO factor.
The FOMO.
Right?
We all have it.
You cannot replace in-person meetings, right? There's that at HPN, the energy and the like sheer level of excitement that people greeted that maybe it was their first trip of the year period, or certainly their first meeting or anything. It was just, and I think that the meetings that happen, let's say this year and next year, depending on, where they are in their sequence, are probably going to be some of the best experiential meetings ever. And not necessarily because we increased budgets and spent a ton more on them, but because people are just so excited to be together that that's their only, expectation now is, okay, how can I have a conversation live in person with a human being?
We were on the call with a client who's a planner, and there were two of them from the same company on the call yesterday. And they said they're just so excited to go do their site planning visit in August. And one of the reasons is because they get to see each other after a year in person. So the same planning team is only done, virtually. And they're like, we're just so excited to see each other in the same place. And I love that. I mean, they're like, August, September cannot come soon enough.
Oh, you're back. Okay. Yeah. So let's do this, Jill and Desi. We're at about 45 minutes in, 46 minutes in. I love the questions that we've been getting, and I want to focus a little bit more on the questions here that we've got in our chat box. So ask them. What I really would like to hear from is a client who may have, what was a learning from hybrid? I made maybe a bonehead statement in saying that it's not sustainable to have a virtual meeting, and that may be the way I feel, but I also have heard that. And does anyone out there share that, or does anyone agree? And I'm, again, you got to do what makes sense for your organization at the time. So, but let's look at the chat box and let's pull out some questions here. Chris Clayton just got back from a pre-planning trip. He was in Salt Lake City. I saw some pictures of he and his clients on Facebook. So
was he the one that posted the picture of the amenity? Yes, and someone said, "What is that?"
Yes,
like a hotel amenity. When did we have those?
Right.
Yeah. So here's another thought. When we were having these conversations in April, May of last year through the summer, I don't think anyone had gotten on a plane.
Oh no.
So how do you make a decision to get your organization to fly and gather, right? And when you haven't taken a trip yourself. I mean, we're now a year in. I think there's probably still a group of folks who just haven't traveled. They haven't gotten on the plane, but there are a lot that have. There's been leisure travel. I mean, you've heard some of the chain from the various supplier brands say that transient and leisure are going to come back. You've also heard them say recently, a very large chain has referenced the fact that group is coming back faster than expected. This isn't HPN opinions, but these are facts that we're hearing. Our lead volume has doubled. Our bookings 70%, 72% last year. So again, so those are facts. But I think the leisure, if we get planners who've traveled themselves, meeting owners who've traveled themselves, I mean, wouldn't you think they'd feel more comfortable in actually moving forward and having a meeting?
Absolutely.
I think so. And it depends on, I think, where you're going and what protocols, if that's what your personal requirement is, you want to see what protocols people have put into place. And there's also, quite frankly, a difference between what people say they're doing and then what they're actually doing, right? So we've all seen that, where we're supposed to be doing something, but we're not. And so what is kind of knowing the destination a little bit and what it is that you're getting into, and then how you're going to be comfortable bringing your group, and if it's a pretty loose situation, is that comfortable for your group, or do you need to tighten it up, a little bit for yourself? And looking through all of those details and kind of getting that comfort level, and also knowing if anybody hasn't traveled yet, or if you haven't attended a meeting, wearing your mask all day long is, I don't even know what to say. It's just, and it's necessary. We're all having this experience together. But when we had HPN 20, and that was my first time wearing a mask basically all day long, because I've been working from home, and I'm like, guys, I just need to breathe,
I had maskne all over.
Yeah, totally.
So I got a question here that came in, just had a text here. And the question says that what are well, I'm trying to paraphrase here, but what are staffing levels like at the hotels? And if I move forward with my meeting here, how can I ensure that hotels have either A, their outlets open, or B, they have the staffing to actually fulfill the meeting? That's a great question. We have a client that booked a for the year buyout, literally a buyout at a hotel that had been closed for we'll just call it a period of time. And this was going to be really their first meeting back. So one of the big conversations during the contracting phase was it was, all right, what's your staffing like? And there was some angst, frankly, from the hotel side to say, hey, yeah, we bid on this, but now we're at a point, can we really execute? So there was a lot of conversation back and forth, really where the hotel was leading the conversation on truly understanding the nature of the program, the expectations, so they could bring staff back. Because from a hotel side, obviously it's forecasting, right? And if you're bringing staff back to operate a program, like that's an initiative. That's a huge undertaking, especially when that buyout checks out. Now you've got all the staff back. What do you do with? So we are cognizant, and we recognize the undertaking that is from a hotel standpoint when we're sourcing out large opportunities and leads, especially in areas that might not be quite reopened yet. And maybe this is your first group back of since being open, of how do you staff it? But great question.
I think that patience is probably the biggest word to consider with that situation, and also just being honest and transparent and meeting each other where you're at. And let's talk about, okay, here are where we're going to have shortfalls on staffing, and how can we be creative together to figure this out? Maybe adjust the agenda, or do something a little different, or come up with ideas or ways. I was reading something last week about hotels, looking at this with a new creative opportunity to say, how can we, maybe cross-train a little bit more? You're seeing people do different jobs that they maybe didn't do in the past. But because we want to get there, but if it doesn't make sense because they don't have business on the books or not that much, that's a hard decision for us to make, to bring that staff back.
Desi, when we were at, a partner conference, definitely something I heard from the hotel many times was, thank you for hosting this meeting, because it allowed us to bring people back for the month of December, and it allowed us to get people working again. And I think that was, great information. I hadn't thought of that, leading into it, but different people at the hotel mentioned that more than once. But it's something we have to talk about on the trips we've done. It's something we have to address. And I think as long as you have some patience and empathy for what the hotel is going through, it usually is easily. Go ahead.
I think we need to give a shout out to our host from December, Omni Monta Lucia, in Scottsdale, who did just a fantastic and amazing job. And you could tell the vibe and the energy that property was giving off. And, Kirsten and I had the experience of, the Bellman experience, and they didn't know who we were yet. We hadn't checked in, and we had a bunch of stuff, but they were so excited. And when they found out we were the group in house, they just, they were just like oozing out of their pores. They're like, you guys, thank you so much for bringing a meeting. We are so excited to be working and be busy and doing our job, you know. So it was yeah, it was just a really neat experience.
Yeah, and we're plugging away for our conference this year at the in Cabo at the Hard Rock in Cabo in Mexico. So in October. So for our hotel and destination partners, we'll be there. One comment that came back to a previous topic here about the virtual conference here.
And hi, Cardis. She's amazing. So I'm so happy she's on today.
Cardis.
I was like, Harold, you got to read this. She's agreeing with you.
No, she agrees, right? She basically says, you know, they understand it's not sustainable. The clients love the virtual conference, and a lot of that love, I imagine, Cardis, was because they didn't have to travel themselves. The attendees didn't have to travel because they're still kind of on the fence. But, you know, it's great to see the consensus of, although it was great this go around, we really missed the in-person event. So that's really good to see.
And congratulations, Cardis, on a successful, you know, virtual program. Happy to hear that.
Yeah, fantastic.
So,
right, so
Deanna posted something that was pretty juicy, talking vaccines. We're getting short on time, but I think that everybody, it's, you know, the next burning question, right? What is our perspective and what do we see as, you know, the vaccines are distributed and have that experience? So I just want to throw it out there. What do you guys think?
Are you asking me for my opinion, Desi?
Oh, give it to us.
We weren't doing opinions.
You've been giving them the whole time. Go ahead.
I'll take how about a little bit of your opinion and then a big bit of facts. How about that?
Reality.
Well, so Jill, you probably got some thoughts as well. I think we are truly on the backside of what this pandemic is. I also believe that the media plays a role here, and I'm speaking more so to planners that have external attendees, and when they're trying to market. That's the tough part is, you know, hey, as a planner, my association or my organization, we want to have our meeting. But, you know, we've polled our attendees and who we rely on to come to this meeting. And the attendees are on the fence of whether or not to come. And a lot of that is driven by, I think, the latest headline. But I think what we are seeing and what we're going to see are those headlines pivot, and you're going to see them pivot to a lot more positivity and vaccination. The vaccination strategy is playing a huge part of that. So I think those initial angst that you may have today from when you poll your clients are going to change when you get, I think, Q3. Let's get to the summer, right? Let's get to June, July. But when you get that Q3, Q4, I truly think we're going to be in a different place than we are today. That's my opinion for the day.
No, I totally agree with that. And what we're hearing is from our clients, you know, as the vaccines are rolled out and more people are vaccinated, that's where the hope is coming from, that we're going to get more to a place of herd immunity and there's going to be safety. Yes, we'll always, you know, be careful, but we're definitely seeing that July kind of as a time frame of, you know, by then, hopefully a lot of people will be vaccinated, a lot, you know, beyond just the age groups now and at risk, that we'll get more of the general population vaccinated. And so that brings a lot of hope that going forward, we can meet safely because of that. And vaccines have been a part of this conversation starting, you know, late last year. And I think with Johnson & Johnson being approved, you know, more coming to market, that's just going to help this. And we're going to read more and more about more herd immunity. Right. And I think then we have that positive, you know, we can move forward and meet safely.
And also as things evolve and we're getting more data and they have the opportunity to, you know, analyze and testing and vaccines and, you know, if they're effective and can you transmit, can you get it, all that stuff. You know, I think as time goes by this year, we're all kind of watching this movie with our popcorn, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So I think that's the thought. Paula Sabetzi from Merit asked a question, and I'm pivoting here a little bit about what can hotels do to just help this along. And I think communicate to us. We need to hear. When I talk to a hotel, the first thing I ask is, hey, when's your next sizable program? Because that's you know, that differs for everyone, because that allows us to be able to educate our clients to say, hey, well, you know what, this hotel in this particular city say they have a group that's the same size as yours or bigger or smaller, you know, that's coming in, you know, 2 months, 3 months. In some cases, they have that program in-house right now, which is, again, great to see. So we are at time, though, ladies.
Wow.
I feel like
that went so fast.
I know.
So Brian, can we get our fire back up again? As we
That
close
went
out?
so fast.
Offering.
I'm a little
Let me-
chilly.
one quick offering.
Yeah.
Where's that
so
fire?
For HPN 20 protocols, if there are any planners or even hotels that are confused and not exactly sure what to do or have questions, send us an email to help@hpnglobal.com. We'll share with you our full list of the things that we, you know, did, which is not the end all be all, but if you need a starting point, we're happy to provide that for you.
Yeah.
And always happy to do a
there's
call.
our fire. There's
Oh,
our
there
fire.
it is.
And on the behalf of our CEO, Bill Kilberg, who's in a plane traveling right now, and I think he's logged in and can hear us, but we sincerely appreciate your partnership and support. This has been the toughest year for our industry, I think, ever. So we appreciate all the support, again, from our clients, our suppliers. And, you know, as I keep saying, this too shall end, and everyone keep your head up. Thanks for joining us.
You shall
and have a
pass.
great
Thank
rest of the month.
Thanks, everybody. Great to see
Thanks,
you.
guys. Have a great day. Mwah, 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 mwah.
Bye.
Bye.